It was in the operational viewpoint that Napoleon's genius truly shone. His quest for a decisive battle was present in all his campaigns. He sought decisive victories without giving his adversaries time to rebuild their forces. If we take a geopolitical scope, by crushing his enemies quickly, he avoided his troops getting bogged down on a prolonged conflict, which could result in other nations taking advantage of his exposed position. Now, let's look at Napoleon's conventions that forged an empire whose victories shaped military thoughts until today. Now let's introduce a more strategic scope first, where Napoleon enters a campaign, which is a combination of multiple battles. The French field army used 3 mobile columns with a vanguard, flanks, and reserve, positioned within a day's march from each other, with competent commanders ensuring independent fighting for a day. While advancing under enemy territory, the Army Corps had to strike forward to seek the enemy forces. When a corps encountered the enemy, they had 2 tasks: locating the enemy and maintaining pressure and transmitting relevant information to Army High Command. This is the point where we meet strategy of indirect approach, a method also known as Napoleon's strategy of superiority. One of Napoleon's corps would be dispatched, a mere decoy, to divert the enemy's attention and fixate them to their front. Meanwhile, with the bulk of his army, Napoleon orchestrated a swift, sweeping maneuver, taking his forces on a wide march around one of the enemy's strategic flanks. As Napoleon advanced towards the enemy's rear, he entrusted a corps or 2 and some cavalry to forge ahead, blocking any reinforcements from joining the fray. We can look back the Battle of Jena, Bautzen, and Ulm. On the flip side of this strategic coin was the strategy of the central position, alternatively known as Napoleon's strategy of inferiority. This approach was deployed when Napoleon's forces were outnumbered, facing a dispersed enemy split into 2 widely separated concentrations. The crux of the plan was to position Napoleon's army between the 2 enemy concentrations, preventing them from uniting their forces, allowing the French to concentrate the majority of forces against the more menacing enemy contingent. Meanwhile, a corps or 2 held off the other enemy force for as long as possible. Of course, as with any intricate maneuver, there were risks. The enemy could discern Napoleon's intentions and retreat, as happened in April 1809 during the war with Austria. No analyzing the tactics involved under an individual confrontation, Napoleon had 2 choices: maneuver or attrition battles. In maneuver battles, a portion of Napoleon's force maintained pressure on the enemy's front, while another part attacked one of the flanks, forcing the enemy to react and maneuver during battle. Generally, enemy commanders couldn't maneuver safely or quickly, causing confusion among the enemy forces. Napoleon, with his keen eye for observing and exploiting weaknesses, would launch a decisive attack at the right moment, securing significant victories at minimal cost, such as the Battle of Austerlitz, which exemplifies his successful maneuver battles. Approximately 66% of his battles were maneuver battles. On the other hand, there were attrition battles, where a deluge of gunfire and troop attacks focused on the enemy line until weaknesses appeared. If a clear gap couldn't be found, Napoleon then tried to soften the enemy formations with his Grand Battery, which was a huge concentration of artillery that pounded the opponent for multiple hours. Against these weaknesses, even more masses of men were sent to breach the line. While this type of battle incurred significant resource expenditure, sometimes it was the only option. Some attrition battles ended in victories, like the Battle of Wagram in 1809, while others were only marginal victories and incredibly costly, as seen in the Battle of Borodino in 1812.